Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to explore some average calculation tricks in Power BI. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced user, these tips and tricks will help you take your data analysis to the next level. The average calculation is used to analyze trends, compare performance, set targets, identify outliers, simplify complex data, forecast future values, evaluate effectiveness, create benchmarks, support decision making, and monitor progress. Averages are commonly used in various fields such as sales, marketing, healthcare, and education. Start with the basics. The average function is a simple way to calculate the average of a column. Here is an example of how to use the average function to calculate the average of a column in Power BI. Select the column for which you want to calculate the average. For example, let's say you want to calculate the average sales amount from a table named sales. Create a new measure and name it as average sales amount. Let's enter the formula. Select average function from the drop down. Choose sales amount column to calculate the average of the values in the sales amount column. Close the parenthesis. Commit. We have successfully calculated average sales amount. Now you can use this new measure in your report, such as in a table or chart. In some scenarios, we need to avoid using average DAX function directly to calculate average. In such scenario, we use the sum with count DAX to calculate averages. Create a new measure and name it as average without using average function. First, we use the sum DAX function to calculate the sum of the value. Choose sales amount column, then close the parenthesis. In Power BI, we use forward slash symbol for division. Next, we use the count DAX function to calculate the count of the values. Choose sales amount column, close the parenthesis, commit. The sum divided by count trick is a simple yet effective way to calculate averages in Power BI. To make it easy to read and understand, we can use divide DAX function. Create a new measure and name it as average with divide. We use the divide DAX function to divide the sum by the count to get the average. Select sum, then choose sales amount column, close the parenthesis, comma, select count and choose sales amount column, close the parenthesis, enter alternate result as 0, close the parenthesis, commit. This trick is useful when you need to calculate the average of a column, especially when dealing with grouped data or filtered data. This formula uses the divide function to calculate the average by dividing the sum of the values by the count of the values. The divide function in Power BI automatically handles division by 0, returning a blank as a result if the count is 0. Next, let's take this average calculation to little difficult and effective. For that, we use the calculate DAX function. Create a measure and name it as average sales of all data. We use the calculate DAX function. The calculate function is a powerful tool that allows you to specify a filter or grouping and calculate the average. This is useful when you want to calculate the average for a specific subset of your data and apply additional filters. Select average and choose sales amount column. Close the parenthesis, comma. Next, we use the all function within calculate function and choose sales table to remove any filters and returns all values in the sales table. The all function removes any filters and calculates the average for all data. This is useful when you want to calculate the overall average for your data. We can also replace the all function with all selected. Let me show you the difference between each of them. Instead of all, we use all selected and choose sales table. This formula uses the all selected function to calculate the average sales amount for all selected regions, ignoring any filters on the region column. All selected is useful when working with slicers, filters, and grouping columns to calculate average across multiple groups. Now we replace the all function with all except. Let me show you the difference between each of them. Instead of all DAX function, we use all except DAX function and choose region column. This formula uses the all except function to calculate the average sales amount for all columns in the sales amount, except the region and product columns. All except is useful when working with complex data models and multiple filters to calculate averages across various dimensions. All except is similar to all selected, but instead of selecting specific columns, it excludes specific columns from the calculation. Next, we use the filter DAX function with calculate and average. Create a new measure and name it as average for ANZ. We use the calculate function and average function, then choose the sales amount column, close the parenthesis, comma. We use the filter function to apply a filter to the table. Choose the sales table, comma. Give the condition as region column value is equal to ANZ. Close the parenthesis and commit. This formula calculates the average sales amount for ANZ only. The combination of calculate, average, and filter is useful when you need to calculate averages for specific subsets of data, applying filters dynamically based on conditions. Next, average x DAX function. We can also calculate the average using average x function. Create a new measure and name it as average using average x. Select average x function, choose sales table, comma, and select sales amount column. This formula calculates the average sales amount for each row in the sales table. Average x is an iterator function, which means it iterates over each row in the table, allowing for more complex calculations and filtering. Average x is different from the average function. which calculates the average for the entire column. Average X calculates the average for each row, making it more flexible and powerful. We do have one more inbuilt average function, that is average A DAX function. Select average A function and choose the sales amount column, close the parenthesis, commit. This function is used to calculate the average of a column, including non-numeric values. This function treats non-numeric values such as blanks or text as zeros, allowing you to calculate the average of columns with mixed data types. Average A is different from the average function, which excludes non-numeric values from the calculation. Average A includes all values, treating non-numeric values as zeros. Now let's see how to calculate average using DAX in calculated column. Create a new calculated column and name it as average sales amount. We use the calculate DAX function and use the average DAX function. Choose sales amount column, comma, select filter DAX function and choose the sales table, comma. Provide the condition as region column value is equal to earlier of region column value. Close the parenthesis, commit. This provides the region-wise average sales amount. We can see a new calculated column with average sales amount for each region. For example, ANZ region has 4 records. This formula will calculate the sum of those 4 records values and divide by 4 because count of records is 4. Then we will get output as 1,69,994.75 as average for ANZ region. For other regions also same calculation applies. Next, let's create a new table to store region-wise average sales amount. Create a new calculated table and name it as region average. We use the summarize DAX function and choose sales table, comma, select region column, comma, within double quotes enter average sales amount as column name, comma. We use the average DAX function and choose the sales amount column, close the parenthesis and commit. We got region-wise average sales amount in separate table. Next, we take the average calculation to more advanced. Let's calculate the running average. To calculate the average of a column over a range of rows with the average updating as each new row is added. Create a new calculated column and name it as running average. We use the calculate function and average function, then choose sales amount column, close the parenthesis, comma. We use the filter function and choose sales table, comma. Give the condition as date column value is less than or equal to earlier of date column value. Close the parenthesis and commit. We got running average for each date. First row data will be the result of second row data. You can avoid it using if condition. This formula calculates the running average of the sales amounts, updating the average as each new day is added. Running average calculates the average over a range of rows and updates the average as each row is added. It is useful for analyzing trends and patterns in data. The running average calculation uses the calculate and filter functions to dynamically update the range of rows included in the calculation. The earlier function is used to reference the current row's index column value. We can also make it more dynamic by calculating moving averages for last 30 days. Create a new calculated column and name it as moving average. We use the calculate function with average function and choose sales amount column, close the parenthesis, comma. We use the filter function and choose sales table, comma. Give the condition as date column value is greater than or equal to current date minus 30. To get current date, we use the today DAX function. Close the parenthesis and commit. We got moving average for last 30 days. Let me calculate it using calculator. Enter last 30 days sales amount like 2 lakh plus 2 lakh 10,987 plus 1 lakh 78,900. We have only these three values in last 30 days. Now we will divide this value with 3 because total records last 30 days are 3. We got the average and the value is matching with moving average column value. Next trick is to calculate average of total in Power BI. Create a new measure and name it as average total. Create a variable count of rows and enter the formula calculate with count rows function and choose sales table, comma, select all function and choose sales table. Next, create another variable total time and enter the formula calculate with sum function and choose the sales amount column, comma, select all function and choose sales table. We use return keyword to get the output. We use the calculate function with divide DAX function and select total time variable as numerator, comma, select count of rows variable as denominator, comma, enter 0 as alternate result, close the parenthesis, comma, select the all function and choose date column. Close the parenthesis and commit. Let's visualize this output in table visual. In table visual, we can see 5 columns and the fifth column contains the average of total for all the rows. Last trick and very useful trick, calculating average for multiple columns. Till now, we saw how to calculate average for row values. In some scenario, we need to calculate the average for column values. In such scenario, we use this trick. Create a new calculated column and name it as column average. We use the round DAX function to round the output value to 2 digits. Then we use the average x function to calculate the average with specific condition. And the important part in this formula is we use the flower brackets to input the multiple column values as array. Within flower bracket, enter average sales amount column, comma, running average column, comma, and moving average column, comma, enter value, close the parenthesis and enter 2 to round the output decimal value to 2 digits. Close the parenthesis and commit. Wow, we got column average with the average value of all three mentioned column values. That's it for today's video. I hope you found these average calculation tricks in Power BI helpful. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more Power BI tips and tricks, and hit the like button if you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.